Good morning. Thank you for attending our session on culturally responsive teaching. The first slide has all the advanced programs in the College of Education. So if you or your colleagues are interested in any of these programs, please contact us and apply. Thank you. Okay, so before we begin, just a very brief introduction about ourselves. My name is Shoudong Feng, and I have been with UCA for 20 years. My background is in literacy. So in our presentation, you'll hear frequent references to literacy learning, literacy instruction, and some statistics related to literacy learning. So that's my background. And Dr. Oye Ni, please.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Ojun Ola Oyeni. I'm in the school counseling program at the University of Central Arkansas. So we are here to share with you some of the culturally responsive we use in teaching, which we think might be helpful to you as well. So thank you once again for joining us.
Okay, so to begin with, I'm going to just briefly talk about the cultures that are often represented in our schools, our classrooms. When I talked about this to my undergraduate students, some of them raised a question. Since white culture is a dominant culture, why don't we respond to the European, the white culture, in our schools, in the classroom? Now, I thought that was a great question. Usually we don't think about that. Okay, so yeah, why do we emphasize responding to these cultures instead of the white culture, European culture? Okay, why? Okay, I think there's several reasons. I just wanted to emphasize one. My colleague, Dr. Oyeyini, will talk about the specific reasons. I think in terms of literacy, the underrepresented groups, the marginalized groups, the kids from these cultures, typically underperform, and culturally responsive teaching. Okay, one of the reasons. Okay, we try to respond to these cultures is to help these kids, okay, succeed in schools. Okay, that's one of the main reasons. Okay, so for example, kids with disabilities, kids from the African American background, from the Hispanic background. Okay, ESL. Okay, those students typically underperform in schools. So that's why we want to respond to their cultures, okay, as an effort to help them improve. Okay, so yeah, I think we are all familiar with these underrepresented cultures. This graph, I think some of you may be familiar with it. It has the data from 2003, 2013, and the projected numbers for 2025. Okay, so the first group represent the white students, okay, in K-12 schools, and the second group represent the Black students, okay, then Hispanic, then Asian Pacific Islanders. Okay, so you can see the trend. Okay, the white students, okay, decrease, right, over the years. So by 2025, okay, again, that's the projection. Okay, things may change. Okay, the projected number is 46%. Okay, and then the Black students by 2025, it will be 15%. Okay, Hispanic will increase to 29%. Okay, Asian, okay, from 4% in 2003 to 6%, okay, in 2025. So we can see the decrease, right, in white students, and the I think big increase, major increase in Hispanic students. Okay, That's why we need to put Hispanic students in a more predominant way in our instruction. We need to think about how to respond, can help this particular group, okay, because their numbers will increase significantly by 2025. Okay, so close to, if the projection is right, that's going to be about 30%. Okay, so that's a huge, huge increase. Another factor, another background, okay, that cuts across all demographics is poverty, or students from low socio-economic background. Okay. So bullet 3, okay, so that nationally about 37 million, okay, people living in poverty in 2020. And in terms of kids, okay, under 18, okay, so 16% in 2020. Okay. And in Arkansas, about 65% of all K-12 students are on free reduced price lunch program, okay, across the state, okay, about 65%. We're going to talk about the impact of poverty, okay, on student learning in a little bit, and how we can respond to this group. The next slide is on ESL population. Okay, so across the country, we have about 5 million English language learners in our schools, and Latinx students alone comprise 3.8 million. Okay, so that's about 78%. Okay, 78% of all the ESL learners are from the Hispanic background. Okay, the next big group is Asian. Okay, it's about 530,000. Okay. White ESL students, I think that's from some of them are from the Latinx background, some of them are from European background. Okay. And Blacks, about 220,000. Okay, so in Arkansas, okay, the last bullet, okay, in Arkansas, about 8.4% of all students, K through 12th grade students, were from were ESL, okay, in 2018-2019 school year. Okay.
Students, so
yes.
Before you go on, could you make the slides full screen? It's a little difficult to read since they have the notes next to them.
Sure. Okay. Sorry about that.
And we have a participant that would like to know if they would receive a copy of the slides.
Sure. We can maybe email the slides to you if you're interested. Okay. So go to slide control. How do I do that, Ashley?
At the top right corner where it says slideshow, if you'll just click that.
Presentation.
Yeah, just start from the beginning. You'll have to close out of that smaller box. There you go.
Oh, sorry, this is full screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Would you like for me to go back to a particular slide so you can take a look at the numbers, the statistics?
Yeah, I think you can do that just to, so they can see.
Okay. Just very quickly, okay, so this is a previous slide on ESL population. Poverty. Okay, this is the graph on the statistics regarding the students in our schools, K through 12 schools. Preschool, actually, preschool to 12th grade. Okay. Okay, yeah, students with disabilities, I think the number has been very consistent, okay? It's about 13, 14, 15% nationally, okay? So that's the percentage of students with disabilities, okay? And we're gonna show you some literacy data on these students as well. So you will see the gaps between different student groups, okay? Yeah, so this slide summarizes the reasons why we need to respond to these student groups, their cultures. Okay? Again, okay, there are some particular reasons, and one of the most important reasons is that many of these marginalized groups underperforming schools. Okay? So that's one of the reasons we need to respond to the culture. Okay, there are some other reasons as well. Okay, for example, I think it is important that our students are aware of the diversity in our society. Okay, they need to see the different cultures in the classroom, in the school. Okay, after they graduate from high school, they go to a bigger city, they attend college. Okay, they may be employed in a company that has a lot of diversity, so they need to be prepared. Okay? And also students from these marginalized groups, because of low numbers, because of bullying issues, they low motivation in school. So they need to see their cultures represented. Okay, and there is research that shows when they see their cultures represented, their motivation will improve. Okay, they can make better connections, okay, to the content. That will translate to better comprehension, okay, better learning in school. Okay? Yeah, so these are some of the reasons. Okay, some of the reasons why we need to respond to these marginalized groups in school. Okay? So it's not about replacing the mainstream culture. Okay, it's not about that. Okay, as educators, okay, we're thinking about helping these students, kids from these marginalized groups, improve, succeed in schools. Okay, and that will translate to a better society. Okay. There's research that shows low literacy is related to incarceration rate. I think many of you are probably aware of that. Some states build prisons. Okay, they decide on the number of prisons to build. Okay, based on the literacy rate in the state. Okay, so if we can help these kids from these groups improve in school, okay, that will make the whole society better. Okay, so that's yeah, the most, I think that's the most important reason. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Oyeyini, could you please?
Thank you. I'll be talking about the literacy performance of basically we'll be looking at the difference between the underrepresented group from this slide. So this is for African American students. So we are looking at their NAEP Reading Average score from 1992 to 2019. So when we look at in 1992, they have like 192, so which is not even up to basic in 92. So from there on, they go on to like 2017. We can see that they scored 206 in 2017. And from 2017 to 2019, they score their NAEP is 204. And the proficiency level should be 240. So we see that they are far away from the proficiency score. So up to 2019, from 92 to 2019, that's a very long time. They were still struggling to meet up with the provision score. So that shows us some of the struggle they face when we talk about our literacy performance in schools, especially for African American students. I teach in the school counseling program. Most of my students used to say something like this, that when we are talking about, especially when we are talking about advocacy, how you can advocate for your students from different cultural backgrounds, especially the minority students. So this is one of the things we look at that this population are struggling with. So this is to tell us that there is a need to support them, to help them, especially when you have them in your class or when you have them in your school. So could you please move to the next slide? This is for Latin American students. This also the trend in 4th grade NAEP reading average scores for Hispanic students. And this is from 1992 as well to 2019. In 92, their score was 197. That it keeps going to, like we can see, from 92, 93, 94, 5, 6, 7 years, and up to like 2017, they have 209. That's the score for in 2017. So in 2019, from 209, the same thing in 2019, no improvement from 2017. That's like 2 years. So they still struggle to meet the provisions level 2. We're supposed to be 244 for the provisions level. We can see that 2017 and 2019, when we are teaching students, especially in academia, when you are teaching the students, you teach them in 2017 and 2019, as I was saying, so the same, they still have the same score, which is 209, and 2019, the same score, 209. I think as a teacher, when I'm teaching the student and they're still not getting, they are not meeting the provisions level, I might not be happy with that. Oh, what is going on? That might tell me that there's a need to do something to support that particular student, irrespective of their cultural background. So this is another reason to let us know that we need to put that into consideration when we have this population in our class or in our school. So you can move to the next slide. Okay. This is the literacy scores for students not eligible for NSLP for the National School Lunch Program. For those that are not eligible, when we see the difference here compared to what I've been talking about from the first 2 slides, from 2003 to 2019, for these students, in 2003, they scored 229. It moves on to, in 2017, they have 236. In 2019, they have 235, which is all, they are very close to the provisions level in 2019. These are for those that are not eligible for National School Lunch Program. So we can see the difference, that at least they are making progress to some extent. So like 2017 to 2019, the difference is not much, but we can still see that it's not that bad. They are almost close to the provisions level for this population. Next slide. Then let's look at this from the previous slide and this. This is for literacy score of students eligible for National School Lunch Program from 2003 to 2019. In 2003, they scored 201. Then in 2017, they have 208. Then 2019, they have 207, which is far away from proficiency level for these students that are eligible for National School Lunch Program. What do you think, what are the factors you think might be responsible for this compared to the last slide? For students not eligible for National School Lunch Program, and for those that are eligible, looking at their literacy score, what do you think are the factors responsible for this? Low socioeconomic, I agree. Yeah, that's the first thing we will need to think about. Yes. Yeah. I agree with you. It's one of the factors, and we put that into consideration in academia to focus on survival rather than academics. Thank you. That's a very good point too. They don't have the same resources at home. Yeah, we can, let's go back to looking back at the during COVID-19. Most teachers, my students used to share with me in class that most parents at that time, students stay at home, they learn from home, they do everything from home. And most students don't really, they give them homework, some of them don't do it. And the teachers, they see the difference from those from low socioeconomic background compared to those that are coming from maybe the high socioeconomic background. They see the difference from those. Thank you, another factor too. That's another factor. Different values, the digital, yeah, because some parents might think that when we are talking about, someone mentioned focus on survival rather than academics. Most parents, they need to work. They don't really have the time to support their student academic success. What they are really looking for, how to put food on the table. So they need to go out very early in the morning. Some of them come back late in the night. You can't compare them to like someone like you that you really, a lot of people might value that I need to check what my kids are doing. Let me see your homework. Do you have anything your teacher asks you to do, and so on and so forth. But some parents don't have time for that. So we can see that from their literacy scores as well. So, and different values too. Yeah, maybe I might value education. Oh, my kids need to do this, they need to go to college. Some people don't really, that's not in their agenda. They have something else they are thinking about. Digital divide as well is part of it. So these are some, yeah, all the things you listed here, I can relate that to what I heard from my students, especially during COVID-19. So we can see the difference from the scores from those that are eligible and those that are not eligible for National School Lunch Program. The next slide. So this is the literacy score of the English language learners. This is from 2002 to 2019. I agree. Thank you, Susan. Yes, it is. It is a safe place. I always tell my students that when parents and teachers can work together, I think that will positively affect the students. We need to work together. You can't just say that only teachers cannot do it alone. Parents, they have an important roles to play as well. As teachers are playing their part at school, parents also need to do their part at home. So that's the only way we can support these students. We need to work together. So as a team. The literacy score of English language learners in 2002 is 183. Then moving forward to 2017 is 189. You can see that at least they are improving from 2002 to 2007. There's difference. Then up to like 2019, they score 191. So even not up to proficiency level, but there's difference. They are still for English language learners, but it's still far away from proficiency level. When you expect your student to score 240 and they scored 191, you see that they still have roughly like 49 score to meet up with that, which is a lot. So you can see that 191 is far away from 240. From proficiency level, they might expect them to be. So it's 191 in 2019. So the difference is not really much, but yeah, this is a concern as well. As a teacher, I will be concerned when I see something like this. Next slide. This is for this is for literacy. Yes, thank you. Literacy scores of non-English learners. We can see the difference here as well, compared something similar to what we talk about 2002 to 2019. In 2002, we can see they scored 221. We move on to like 2017. This is they scored 226. Then 2019, they scored 224. Same year, from 2002 to 2019, the same year compared to the English learners, we can see that they scored 224, and those, the other population score like 191. So the difference is there. I can relate this back to when I came to the United States. This my like some, I was like 7 years ago. No, it's 8 years ago when I came for my master's program. That would be a good example to explain this. When I came for my master's program, I was the only international student in my class. I have, most of my classmates are like whites, and I have like maybe 2 Hispanics or something like that. I struggled a lot. I struggled because I was just coming from my country. I was just coming from Nigeria, you know, the culture shock, especially the English in the United States is quite different from my country. So I struggled, but all this time I appreciate that my professors, they really understand that. You know, they were ready to support me. They call me, they will talk to me like, oh, if you have any question, please let me know. If you are struggling with anything, please send me an email. Let me know how you are coping. Let me know if we need to. I can teach you one-on-one if you need something like that. But I noticed that I struggle a lot. I struggled. Sometimes some of my professors will be saying something and I won't even understand what they were talking about. Actually, my first year, some of them asked me to write in APA. I didn't know what I mean. I was like, what is the meaning of APA? What does that mean? But they refer me to like the writing center. Those people are the ones that they explain everything to me. My first year was tough. I struggled a lot. So when we think about that, for example, if a student is coming from my country, maybe from any countries in Africa, they're just coming to the United States, they might struggle with English as well. So when you have them in your class, you can't compare them to like non-English, those that are being in the United States, those that are born and bred in the United States. You can't compare them to someone coming from my country or someone coming from India. So they will perform differently. So in case we have them, which I think you might have immigrants in your school, these are the things you need to look out for. So you might notice something like this when they are maybe during exams or whenever they are doing something. Definitely, they might perform better than them. So another slide. We move on to the next slide. Okay. This is in literacy achievement for students with disabilities from 2002 to 2009, the nation's report card. So when we look at their score, here from in 2002, they score 187. They're moving on to like 2019, they score 184. So 184, which is far away from proficiency level as well. When we look at that, it's something like it's not even up to 200 for students with disabilities. When if you are in a school system, you know what that means. So a lot of parents, when they have a student with disabilities, some of them struggles, they need all the help they can get to make sure that they support their children. So this is something we need to look at. So you can see that even in 2019, they are still at 184. Like, they didn't even score up to what they scored in 2002 and 2018. So it's 184. So let's look at those, the student with, that should be the next slide, I think, to compare them. Oh, okay, literacy score of typically developing students, that those without disabilities. So from 2002, they scored 221. They scored 221, and in 2017, they scored 227, but in 2019, they scored 226. So we can also compare that to students with disabilities. So they are at least almost at the proficiency level, but they score higher than them. So 2026, and those ones score like, I think 204 or something like that. So the difference is, I think when we look at the gap, it is a lot. It's something that if you have them in your class, or you have students with disability, you see how they are performing, and you have students without disabilities. This is something we might need to look at. And that will help us to think about how can we support this population. They need our help, they need all the encouragement they can get, and we need to advocate for them as well to make sure that they perform effectively and the school environment is conducive for them. Questions or anything you would like to share? I think that's it. Okay. So this is the similar patterns in other content areas such as math and science. We can see more detail on Nations report and website. So when we click on this link, Dr. Feng, can you click that link?
Sure.
Okay, so here the National Student Group scores and score gaps. So from grade 4, grade 8, when we click each grade, we will see the difference, something similar to what I just discussed. It shows all the difference between like white and black students, Hispanic student, African-American student, how their score compared to like white students. It shows us a lot of things, students with disabilities and students without disabilities, the difference they have when we look at their scores. So there is difference from this website as well. 8th grade, the same thing, grade 12, the same thing. When we compare the white and black, we see the difference. Students with disabilities and students without disability, we see the difference, and so on and so forth. So that's what this link is trying to tell us. You can go back to the, yeah.
Okay.
So the data demonstrate the strong need to help students from certain backgrounds. So as we teach our students, this is just to remind us that we need to put that into consideration where we are teaching them. We need to support them, and we need to remind them all the time that they have the tendency to do great, and they have to, that they should let us know if they are struggling with anything. So, thank you. Next slide. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Oyeyemi. I'm going to continue to talk about culturally responsive teaching. So what is culturally responsive teaching, and how to implement it in our classrooms? Okay. So just a little bit of history about this pedagogy. It was first proposed by this professor at Stanford University, okay, Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings. Okay, she coined this term, culturally relevant pedagogy, okay, to describe a form of teaching that calls for engaging learners whose experiences and cultures are traditionally excluded from mainstream settings. Okay, so these are the references. If you want to read more about her discussion on this pedagogy, okay, you can try to find these articles. Okay, there are three main goals in her pedagogy. Okay, three main goals. The first one is to improve student academic success. Okay, and the second is to develop positive cultural and ethnic identities. Okay, so some students have low self-esteem, okay, because they're traditionally marginalized. Okay, so this pedagogy will improve, okay, positive cultural and ethnic identities. Okay, and the third goal is to cultivate student ability to recognize, understand, and critique social inequities. Okay. I know we should, okay, as educators, we should advocate, okay, for our students, but sometimes when students are more mature, they should also advocate for themselves. Okay, they should be aware of, what services are missing. Okay, there are education laws, okay, that guarantee certain education rights, right? There's a civil rights office in each state, right? So as students mature, okay, they should know what kind of rights they have. Families, parents too, what kind of rights they have. English language learners, for example, there are federal laws, okay? They should stand up for their own rights, okay? So again, three goals, okay? First of all, right, to improve student success. Second, to develop positive cultural and ethnic identities. Okay, sorry for the misspelled word. Cultivate student. Third is cultivate student ability to recognize, understand, and critique social inequities. The second scholar who made significant contributions to this pedagogy is Dr. Geneva Gay, who is a professor at University of Washington, Seattle. She put a strong emphasis on teachers' strategies and practices, okay, which is about the implementation, the doing, okay, how to implement in the classroom. Okay, and she changed the term to culturally responsive teaching. Okay, culturally responsive teaching. So in this approach, okay, we will emphasize using the cultural knowledge, prior experiences, frames of reference, and performance styles of ethnically diverse students to make learning in context more relevant and effective for them. Okay, so this is about making learning more relevant, okay, easier for students to make connections, okay, when their cultures are represented, when their experiences are represented, when they see something similar, okay, their motivation will improve, they will be better engaged in learning. Okay. She also calls on teachers to make positive changes on multiple levels. Okay, for example, instructional techniques, instructional materials, student-teacher relationships, classroom climate, and self-awareness to improve learning. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about these different levels on the next few slides. Okay, so basically, this is about classroom instruction. Okay, instructional techniques, okay, strategies, the materials we use, okay, in our classrooms, okay, and the teacher-student relationships report, okay, between the teacher and student. Okay, how to build an affirming, inclusive classroom and school-wide environment. Okay. The third person who also contributes a lot to these pedagogies, Django Paris. Okay. I think he also works for University of Washington system, okay, one of the campuses, okay, in Washington. Okay. He actually goes a step further to propose that we should try to sustain, okay, so not just to respond, but to sustain, okay, students' identities and cultures, okay. So I'm going to just use English language learner for example, okay. So we don't have to make kids abandon their first language, okay. It will be a great thing to add on, you know, what students already have, okay. So we should help students acquire standard English, but at the same time, can we try to help them retain, okay, the Spanish, okay, the Chinese, their first language and culture, okay. So I think this is a even more progressive pedagogy, okay. We don't have to make every student the same, okay. Just let them keep their first language, first culture. So here is a summary of what those three major scholars' ideas on this pedagogy. Okay, the first one is to build an inclusive and affirming classroom school environment. Okay, so if you only have control over your classroom, okay, how can you make your classroom more inclusive, more affirming? Okay, do you have any signs and logos and posters that show that everybody's valued, everybody's welcome in your classroom? If you are a school leader, okay, how can you make your school, the whole building, more inclusive, more affirming? Okay, so do you have logos? Do you have posters, signs, etc., that actually show? Okay, because when students, okay, when parents, when committee members come to school, when they see those signs, their posters, okay, they'll feel different, okay? They'll feel different, okay? It is important to have those concrete things in the environment. The second is co-constructed curriculum with stakeholders, okay? I know when we adopt textbooks, when we adopt curriculums, we seldom include community members, parents in the process. Okay? I understand teachers have the expertise, the knowledge, to decide, okay, what books to adopt, what textbooks to adopt for the schools. Okay, but can we include some community leaders, okay, in the process? Okay? They may see things we don't see, okay, in the program we plan to adopt. Okay, so can we include some members from our community, okay, in the process as well? The third is high expectations and rigorous instruction. Okay, so this is about the classroom instruction itself. Okay. I think we probably know this. Okay, when it comes to specific student groups, we may expect less from them. Okay, we may. Okay, and we all know high expectations are very important. Okay, we expect less from a student. Okay, they will give you less too. Okay. So we should have the same high expectations for everybody in our classroom. Okay, and rigorous instruction. Again, we probably know this. Okay, we may not teach the same way. Okay, to different student groups. Okay, we may not. So when we look at the low school achievement, okay, we really cannot determine, okay, to what extent, okay, the low achievement is actually caused by this, okay, low expectations, okay, poor quality, poor classroom instruction. Okay, we don't have the statistics, but I think this might be one of the reasons. Okay, might be one of the reasons. Okay, as teachers, we often blame the parents for not, helping, not contributing enough. Okay, but we should also look at our own classroom instruction. Okay, and the last point is developing student critical thinking skills. Okay, again, my background is literacy, so I use literacy as an example. Okay, I think we are aware of the importance of higher order thinking skills. Okay, we should encourage students to ask more questions. Okay, when they read, critique the text. Okay, critique social reality. Okay, or the things that happen in society. Okay. So this is about developing students' capacity. Okay, capacity, because eventually, when they grow up, okay, they'll have to do things on their own. Okay, to improve their own lives. Okay, improve the society. Okay. So these are the four elements in culturally responsive teaching. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say a little bit more about the fourth point. Okay, developing student critical thinking skills. Okay, moving students to higher level. Okay, higher order thinking. Okay. Again, I'm going to use poverty, okay, as an example. Okay, can we do something? Can we involve our students to doing something in the school setting to help students from low socioeconomic background? Okay, I know a lot of schools are doing a lot of things in this respect. For example, raising money, collecting food. Okay, in the summer, okay, we provide food trucks, right? Mobile library to the communities. We're doing a lot of things, but my point is that our students can be involved in the process as well. Okay, like homelessness in the community. Okay, can our students, do something using literacy? Okay, using, for example, writing. Okay, can they write to the mayor? Okay, and ask the mayor if what kind of things the city is doing to help homeless people in the community. Okay, what kind of things can students do in this area? Okay, so that's just an example of moving students up, okay, to high order thinking, okay, to engage them in social action projects. So social action is not just about street protest. It's not like just taking students to the streets. It's not about that for these young kids. Okay, they can do fundraising. They can do volunteer work. They can write to the city council, the mayor. They can write to the governor. Okay, they can do a lot of things. Okay, to engage in social action projects. Okay. So these are the four elements of culturally responsive teaching. Are there any questions?
Sad.
Okay. Oh, really?
That's sad.
Yeah, that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really sad. Yeah. Yeah, that's really sad. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leadership is important, right? Yeah, leadership is important. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we've talked about this pedagogy, right? From culturally relevant pedagogy to culturally responsive teaching to culturally sustaining, right? Culturally sustaining pedagogy, okay? We'll let Dr. Oyeniyi to talk about the research evidence. Okay, yeah, so we're advocating for this, right, pedagogy. Okay, does this pedagogy actually produce, does it produce good results? Okay, so that's the whole point, right? If it doesn't produce good results, why bother,
Mhm.
Okay, Dr. Oyeni, please.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So we'll be talking about what the research that supports culturally responsive teaching. Or when we look at the national academics of science, engineering, and medicine, so there is a research in that area that highlights that the benefits of culturally responsive teaching, for example, studies in brain science and education, it shows that drawing on learners' background knowledge shapes comprehension. And during my PhD program, I have a friend from China. So whenever we were in class, she normally, whenever the professor is saying something, she writes in Chinese. She normally do that in Chinese. So I asked her that what happened. She said, whenever she go back home and she's trying to read, that helps her to understand, to remember everything the professors have said in class. I said, oh, that's cool. But because in my country too, we have different languages. We have people might tell you that they are from Nigeria, but we have different languages. We have Yoruba, we have Hausa, we have Igbo, we have different people. I might see in Nigeria, if they don't talk to me like, hey, how are you? I might not be able to hear what they are trying to say. And we are from Nigeria. This, my friend from China told me that she preferred to write anything down in Chinese, that whenever she get back home, that helps her to really understand what the professor was trying to say. I'm like, oh. And another friend of mine from India, she used to do the same thing too. So when she's trying to write something down in class, she used a language from China, from India. So, and that's the method they use because they came to the United States for their PhD program. So the culture is different. Everything, it was kind of different to them as well. So they are trying to help themselves to make sure that they can remember everything the professor was trying to say when they get back to their various homes. So the same thing applies to our students, maybe in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, when you are having students from the marginalized group, the underrepresented group, we need to put this into consideration as well. There might be so different methods we need to apply to make sure that they learn like other students in our classrooms. So we need to put that into consideration. So another research also illustrates, no, I think I have, could you please go back to, yes, that one. Also illustrate the instructional materials. When you include something like instructional materials, the assignment and test that reflect student background and experiences, these are also critical to engage students and for deep, meaningful learning. Even in our master's program, I do this a lot in our multicultural class. I ask my students to pick different topics. Some of them might tell me that, oh, I would like to do something about African America. I would like to learn more about them. This is not their background, but they are trying to learn about this culture. Some of them might say that, even one of my students last semester told me that as an African American student, I would like to do something. I would like to look at what the students and African American students, those in athletics, what are they going through? What are the challenges they are facing? I would like to know this, even since we are from the same cultural background. I told them, go ahead and do that, so we can give our students opportunities to, to think about their cultural background. You can give them an assignment in that area. There are different projects we can incorporate into our teaching, and this will help your students to think that you are thinking about them and you include them in whatever you are doing. So I always do that in most of my classes. My first class, I asked my students to tell me about themselves. I need to learn about you. I need to know more about you. And I introduced myself too. I shared everything about my background. And some of them will ask questions. Oh, could you tell me about the kind of food you eat in Africa? Could you tell me about this? Oh, one of my aunties married someone from Nigeria, and he told me this, is that true? I'm like, oh, that's true. That's okay, yes, that's how we do it. So different, you can share your own experience with your student, ask them to share their own experience too. So that will help you to know more about them. Likewise, they know more about you as well. These are the things we can include in our teaching, and that will really help us to support our students and make them perform effectively academically. The next slide. Thank you. Okay, so another slide. This is also talking about CRT. This is for critical race theory. This one. Oh, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, during my master's program, my PhD program, we have something like that too. Like we have people from different, especially international students, who will come together. People will bring food, and other people, people in the United States will come. They will come and celebrate with us. We laugh, we talk about things. They ask about our background, our culture, and we share things with them. So I think that's something that, I think we used to do something like that at UCA too. They do something like that too. So also they said that another research, which is David and Julia 2018, they talk about the effectiveness of CRT, which is a critical race theory. And this was developed some decades ago at Harvard Law School. This also tried to let us know that academic achievement, when you incorporate this into your teaching, the CRT intersection, this might help you to achieve academic achievement among your students. It improves attendance, greater interest in school, among other outcomes too. So when you let your students know that that you recognize them, you value them, you are willing to support them, and you put their cultural background into consideration, this improves attendance and so many other factors that might help them perform academically. So we have some research here, some of the references from what we've been talking about. So. Okay, this link is from the New York State Education Department's Culturally Responsive Sustaining Education Framework. This is from 2018. I might ask Dr. Feng to click on that link. This is, yeah, thank you. So we have from page 19 to 24. Could you please, yeah. That's talking about what students need to do, page 19 to 24. When you get to page 19. Yes, students can contribute to a culturally responsive, sustaining educational environment by they can create a welcoming and affirming environment. They can also, they fostering high expectation and rigorous instruction, identifying inclusive curriculum assessment, and engaging in ongoing professional learning and support. So these are what they can do to help students. And all these are talking about you can create a welcoming and affirming environment for your students. There are so many things we can do to make sure that we create a welcoming environment for our school. Even in when they get to college, we do the same thing. Even when you have, I remember that during my master's program, my PhD program, they have like welcoming party for international students, all of us. So just to, you know, and I think that really, I love that they even recognize that people, some people are here that they are not part of us, that let us welcome them, let them know what they need to, some information about the United States. And they give us some guidelines and some website that we can go to. We can go and read a lot of things about the United States, about the culture, about food, about languages, and so many other things. So we do the same thing in college as well. So these are the things we can do in our school. So you can see that maintain knowledge and awareness that everyone reacts to situation differently. Yes, I have noticed that my students used to talk about that. There are some things you might tell me, maybe because I'm from another country, I might not really understand, but I might see that as, I might interpret that differently. And meanwhile, you are not being rude, you are trying to explain something to me, but until you explain to me to let me know, I will not understand. For example, when you're talking to someone from my country, we hardly look at people. Even our parents, we don't look at them like, when my parent is talking to me, the right thing they expect me to do is to, you know, I need to look down. I don't look at their eyes. But here, kids do that. When you are talking to people here, if you don't look at them, they might think that maybe you are lying, you don't know what you are saying, you are trying to do something funny or something like that. But in my country, it's not like that. So when you have a student, I used to tell my student, and one of my students said, hey, that's true, that there's a student in our class, she's from Ghana, that she was talking to that student. The student was like, she wasn't looking at the teacher. Just she felt so bad that why she not, I told her that no, that's the culture. That she had, the student just came to the United States, not up to 2 years. She's trying to learn, she's trying to adapt. So you just need to understand that. So these are the things we need to put into consideration. We react to situation differently, we learn differently. We have them in our classes too. Some students, immediately you tell them something, they know they understand what you're trying to tell them. Why some students will still come back and meet you that, hey, what do you mean? What are you trying to say? So that's a different learning method. Students learn differently, and we need to put this into consideration when we are teaching our students. So yeah, we have the link. So if you need to save our time, if you need this information, we can always send it out so that you can go through them. There are so many information there in this book that can help you to better support your student. So how you can engage your student in the classroom and so on and so forth. And for teachers, we have page 25 to 28. Is that 25? Yes, this one. Yeah, you can create a welcoming and affirming environment for your students. So yeah, you need to assess the physical environment of the classroom and school to determine whether a variety of diverse culture, language, orientation, and identity are reflected. So these are the things we can do in our school. Build rapport and develop positive relationship with your students. Provide multiple opportunities for parents to communicate in their language. One of my students told me that they do something like that. They have like, that there is an app they use to I can't remember the name of the app. There are so many apps they use for English language learners, especially for their parents, whenever they need to tell them, so especially those that are maybe like Hispanics or something like that. So they use that so that the student can understand what they are trying to tell them. Because without doing that, the student will not know what you are saying. And there's no point in doing that. So they have different apps they use to translate English to their various languages. So work with families early. And so like I said earlier, we need to make sure that you communicate with the families too. Let them know how their children are doing and let them know how they can support their students and their children. So there are so many information. Another one is to fostering high expectation and rigorous instruction. So there are so many things you can do to achieve this as well in this book. You also need to identify inclusive curriculum and assessment. So many things you can do. They listed them here. Engaging in ongoing professional learning and support. You have so many things you can do here. So this would be a great resource that you can use to better support your student. Could you please go back to?
Sure. So this is an example that is adopted in New York State, okay, by the State Department of Education there.
Yeah.
If you want to look at the details of all these elements, you know, what students are expected to do, what teachers are expected to do, you can just follow the link and read a little bit more. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to recap, okay, what is in that document, what we have discussed in terms of this culturally responsive teaching or culturally, I think in New York State they call it culturally responsive dash sustaining pedagogy, right? It's included both words, responsive and sustaining. Okay, yeah, respond then sustain. So yeah, work on the environment. Yeah, I understand that in some schools, certain logos and signs and posters are not allowed, but I do believe it's a good practice. Okay, it's a good practice. This should be part of the school culture. Okay, when we talk about culture, we often divide culture into different levels. Okay, the first level is what we say we believe in. Okay, like in the United States, we say it's in the Constitution, it's in a lot of documents. Okay, we believe in life, liberty, and freedom, all those kind of things. Okay, that's what we say we believe in. Okay, there should be artifacts in the culture, in the society that reflect the beliefs, Okay. If the beliefs only existing in these documents, okay, it doesn't mean much. Okay, there should be artifacts in the culture. Okay, and then another level is what we do. Okay, so we say this is what we believe in, and there are artifacts that reflect what we believe in, and also at the deepest level. Okay, what we do. Okay, what we do what we do actually reflect what we believe in. Okay, is there any consistency between what is stated, okay, for example, in the Constitution, all these documents, okay, and what we behave, the way we behave, the way we do things. Okay, so yeah, so that's another topic. Okay, about school culture. Okay, school culture should have different levels as well. Okay, I believe if you ask the principal, every principal will say we believe in all these things, right? Everybody should be equal, right? We value, we respect everybody. Okay, but are there artifacts that reflect that? Okay, are there any artifacts that actually reflect that? And also, more important in what we do, okay? So yeah, again, this is just a recap of all the important elements in this pedagogy. I wanted to spend some time on third space teaching, okay, as a way of responding to cultures in the classroom, okay, third space teaching, okay. How many of you are familiar with this theory, third space teaching? If you are familiar, if you have heard of this theory? Okay. So third space teaching is a place where we connect home and school. Okay. So for some students, okay, groups of students, okay, what we teach in school is too challenging, too difficult for them. Okay. They have home literacy practices, they have community literacy practices like church literacy practices. They have a lot of things, they bring a lot of things from home, from community, from church, okay, from the environment, okay. And that's different from what we teach in the school, okay. So third space is somewhere in between, okay. So here is a home and here is a school, right, okay. So how do we help students reach what we teach in the curriculum, okay? They need some help in the middle, okay? So third space is somewhere between the home and the school, okay? So home is the first space, okay? Because students are born in that environment, right? They have parents, they have siblings, they have church members, they have community members. They have all kinds of influence on kids, okay? And school is the second space. School is where we teach formal, curriculum. Okay, that's the second space. And the third space is a learning environment. Could be a learning task. Could be a learning instructional activity. Okay, where students may use what is familiar to them. Okay, what is familiar to them is the first space knowledge and practice. Okay? To acquire formal school learning. Okay, and formal school learning is the second space curriculum knowledge, okay, and concepts. Okay. So it is like a bridge, okay, between first space and second space. Okay. If you do some research on third space, it has been widely adopted in many other areas, fields as well. Okay. It was first proposed in Europe. Okay. It was a concept developed in Europe. Okay. It has been adopted in many other fields. So a little bit more on third space theory, okay? If you want to study this theory a little bit more, okay? So Gutierrez, who is a really an important expert in this area. So it is where teacher and student scripts, the formal and informal, the official, unofficial spaces of the learning environment intersect, okay, creating the potential for authentic interaction, okay, and a shift in the social organization of learning and what counts as knowledge. Okay. So it's where the official and unofficial, the formal and informal intersect. Okay. If we do this, we may be able to create a new learning opportunity for our kids. Okay. Again, what we teach in the curriculum may be too challenging. Okay. For example, English language learners, okay, students from other groups, maybe too challenging, too difficult. Okay. So how can we create some learning opportunities where they can use their home experience, their background knowledge to learn, okay, what we teach in the curriculum. And also the second bullet, okay, this space builds on the metaphor of space to illustrate the fluid intersections of, I don't want to touch any bars, just in case I will disable my screen. Okay, identity, culture, and socially produced knowledge. Okay, this person contended that all forms of social interaction are shaped by three interrelated social spaces. The first, or perceived space, okay, the second, or conceived space, and third, or lived space. Okay, so it is really meaningful to lived space. Okay? So the first space represents the cumulative impact of social cultural experiences and core cultural beliefs produced across diverse community enterprises. The second space encompasses cognitively construed ideologies, norms, and priorities acquired through formalized training. Okay, and the third space as a space for possibility. So there are new possibilities in the third space. I also wanted to emphasize hybridity in third space teaching. Okay, I feel this is very important for teachers. Okay, hybridity requires a form of dynamic criticality and is manifested through verbally mediated thirding strategies. Okay. We view third space as reorganized, extended activities and as zones of proximal development that result in new opportunities for learning. Okay. So hybrid, right? Meaning we as teachers allow certain things in the classroom, in the learning process. Okay. Specifically, English language learners. Okay. For example, students who speak Spanish as a first language. Okay, they're not there yet. They cannot produce perfect English sentences, for example. Okay, they cannot produce an English inappropriate English word to express themselves. Can we allow them to use a Spanish word? Okay, so that's hybridity. Okay, is it possible? We allow the use of some Spanish words because students don't have that English yet. Okay, another example is African American dialect. Okay. Okay, I think it is a very important trend right now in education. We see this, okay, African American dialect or African American language. Okay, so traditionally it's considered a non-standard, non-standard form of English. Okay, it is viewed as non-standard, inferior. Okay. In fact, the African American community is very dissatisfied, to say the least, with the way it is viewed. Okay, so there's a new trend to view this as an English dialect. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Okay, but is it possible that we allow students to use some form of African American dialect in the classroom when they speak, when they write? Okay? Because again, they're not there yet. Okay, they cannot produce the standard perfect English. Okay, we expect them to use. Okay? They're not there yet. Okay, so third space gives students the opportunity, okay, to express themselves, to use literacy. Okay? Otherwise, they won't be able to produce anything. Okay, so that's the point of allowing hybridity in the classroom. Okay. Yeah, I copied this slide from one of my files. Okay, so why the third space? Yeah, there's some rationales for this. Yeah, so the first one is irrelevance. Some students don't see the relevance of learning certain concepts, okay? Especially in content areas, in math, for example, okay? In science, physical science, life science, earth science, chemistry, biology. They don't see any point, what's the point, okay? Yeah, so they will ask, what's the point, okay? So if we can incorporate their life experiences, community experiences, okay, if we can create a space, okay, where they can use, okay, make connections, then they'll see the point, okay, the purpose of learning. Yeah, school curriculum instruction sometimes misses connections with home, background, culture, real life, okay. In many cases, we only see a name, for example, a Hispanic name, an African-American name, okay, an Asian name. That's the only connection they can see in the curriculum, okay? Just a name, okay? In science, math, for example. It's not a meaningful connection, okay? This third space will reinforce students' cultural values, literacy skills, and strategies, okay? So basically, this slide is some reasons, some rationales for creating third space in our teaching. So here are some examples. Yeah, again, my background is literacy, so I'm just going to use literacy to illustrate this. Okay. So in some African-American predominant classrooms, okay, how can we incorporate literacy practices that are used in Black churches? Okay. For example, in some African-American churches, recitation, okay, memorization, okay, oral responses are encouraged. Okay. Last semester, in the spring semester, I actually had a student who teaches in North Little Rock, and she said she often uses those same practices in her middle school classroom. Okay, she asked students to recite certain things, memorize certain things. Okay, and students feel proud, when they are able to recite, okay, those things. Okay. Another example is appropriate hip hop and rap music. Okay, appropriate. Okay, age appropriate. Okay, especially lyrics. Okay, reading, analyzing, and even writing. Okay, lyrics. Okay. Another example is Hispanic English language learners, predominant classrooms. I know in some classrooms you may have 56% of the students who are from a certain background, okay, for example, Hispanic background, okay. Can we read some bilingual books, okay, buy more bilingual books, okay, and also books that are focused on their experiences, okay. Towards the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you some books from these cultures, that are about specifically about their experiences, okay, and writing about their own experiences, about their community, okay, the struggles, okay, they face, for example, in their community, okay. Again, I remember the notion of hybridity, okay, in third space learning. I know we may struggle on this, okay. Yeah, we're expected to teach, right, standard English, right, standard grammar, okay, the appropriate, English rules. Okay? How can we allow, the use of Spanish words in their writing? How can we allow, the African-American dialect, in writing and speaking, okay? Again, I'm going to emphasize this, okay? Some of those students are not there yet, okay? They're far from reaching the standard English level, okay? If we don't allow this, okay, they may lose interest, they may feel very discouraged, okay? So think about those reasons, okay? Okay, low socioeconomic background. Okay. I think we are familiar, as educators, we're familiar with all of this, probably, okay? I want to emphasize, let's see, some points. The third bullet, okay? According to these two researchers, Hart and Risley, okay, by age 4, okay, there's a 30 million work gap, okay, between kids from low-income families and their peers from wealthy family background. 30 million, okay. It's not like kids, can use this word. It's the number of words they're exposed to, okay. It's the number of words they're exposed to, okay. So yeah, keep this in mind when we, look at the students who are from low socioeconomic background, okay. There's a huge difference, okay. Yeah, the last two bullets on this slide, okay. When we look at the students from low socioeconomic background, okay, we should remember the Maslow's needs hierarchy, okay. As humans, we worry about food, okay, clothing first, okay, safety, okay. If these students are hungry, when they come to school, when they worry about what food to eat, what to eat when they go home, okay. When their parents just had a fight, okay, last night, okay. All of those things will affect these students, okay. Students are not robots, we teach, then they receive. There are a lot of things that affect learning, okay. Yeah, it's summer. A lot of parents take their kids on vacation. They travel to different places. Yeah, but unfortunately, some kids cannot do that. Okay, all these recreational activities will help kids, understand things. They add to their background. Okay. So in the classroom, we can do a few things to respond to students from low socioeconomic background. Okay, more instruction on background knowledge. Okay. They don't have that. Okay. More in-school reading time. Okay, when they go home, they don't have the support. Their parents may work 2 jobs. Okay, they may, live with the grandparents. Okay, maybe they don't have any siblings and adults to supervise them. Okay, to buy more books. Okay, to read more books. Okay, to boost their self-esteem, to have representation. Okay. Also think about collaboration. Okay, we often in some schools, in some communities, we have tremendous trouble, difficulty, getting the help from parents, from the community. Okay, think about the charity. Okay, the churches, the businesses. Okay, can we get some help from those entities? Yeah. It is hard, okay? It is hard, but this is an area I think we can work on, okay? I think the next few slides about responding to other groups, okay? I will skip this part. We don't have a lot of time left, so I will email the slides to you, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna, in the next few slides, I want to talk about some books that we can buy, we can read with our kids, and that reflect different cultures. Okay, again, representation is important. Kids will have better motivation. They can make better connections. Okay, when we see kids who don't want to read, who are reluctant to pick up a book and read, okay, maybe they don't have the right books, to read. Okay, so think about that. Okay, when we complain that my kids hate reading, they don't want to read. Okay, think about this. Okay, are the books right for them? Okay, so books on poverty. Okay, are you familiar with any of these books? Okay. I think the first one is a nonfiction book. Okay. I'm familiar with these three. Okay, my pappy has a motorcycle. It's about the Hispanic community, and it's about an immigrant neighborhood. Okay. Yard Sale, okay, wrote by Eve Bunting, okay, who has written a lot of books for kids. Okay. So it's about a child who is about to move to an apartment. Okay, so they couldn't afford the house, couldn't pay the mortgage, so they have to sell things and move to an apartment. Okay, and Christmas Coat. This is an older book. Okay, it's about during the Christmas time, they got the donations, okay, from other places. Okay, clothes. So these are some books about poverty. On this slide, there are more books about poverty. Okay, are you familiar with any of these books? Okay. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, that's a chapter book. So I wouldn't recommend it if you're teaching elementary grades. I think it would be more appropriate for middle school, high school students. Okay. 4 Feet, 2 Sandals is about refugee camp, a refugee camp. Okay. Fly Away Home. Okay. I think we all heard of this. Okay. There's a movie on this too, right? So dad and son live in an airport. Okay, they pretend to be passengers, just waiting for their next flight. Okay, Part-Time Indian. Yeah, it's a great book. I love that book. Yeah. So yeah, a dad and son live in an airport, pretending to be passengers, waiting for the next flight. They just move from one area to another all the time. Okay, the next slide is on books about disabilities. Okay, so these are the books on dyslexia specifically. Okay, so if you have kids who struggle, okay, because of dyslexia. Okay. All the 3 picture books were written by Patricia Pelago. I think all of us should be familiar with this author. Okay. And the chapter book, which has gained a lot of popularity these years, okay, is Fish in a Tree. Okay, Fish in a Tree. Okay. It's a chapter book. Okay, it's about a 4th grade. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Falk. Yeah, it's a great book. Yeah, yeah. If your kids are older, if they can read chapter books, Fish in a Tree is also great. Okay, it's about a 4th grade dyslexia student. Okay. There's more books about disabilities. Again, some of you may be familiar with some of these titles. For example, Wonder, I should be familiar to us. It's been out for a while. Out of My Mind, okay, about cerebral palsy. Okay. Charlotte in the Quiet Place about autism. Okay. Okay, there's a newer book, Just Ask by Sonia Sotomayor. Okay, it's about several forms of disabilities. Okay, it's a newer book published in 2019. Okay. Yeah, Out of My Mind is a great book too. Yeah. Okay. I think we have a lot of books, compared to other groups. We have a lot of books about the African American culture. Okay, these are some current quality books. Okay. I'm Enough. Okay, brand new. Okay. It's a beautiful book. Okay, I'm Enough. Okay. Unspeakable. Okay, it's about the Tulsa massacre. Okay. Undefeated. Okay. Also a beautiful book. Okay. Each Kindness. I still read this book to my undergraduate students, just to help them, understand the importance of being kind. How can we teach kindness, okay, to our kids? Some chapter books I like. Okay, New Kid is a graphic novel. Okay, I like graphic novels because they're easier to read. Okay, a lot of our kids struggle; they don't want to read. So when they see, oh, it's a book with a lot of pictures, right? Illustrations, and it looks big, right? Chapter books look big too. They are big books for older kids, right? So the text is not challenging to them. Okay? They look like just a regular book for their peers and for the age group. So poetry novels and graphic novels, I would encourage, if you have kids who don't want to read, who struggle in reading, okay, in upper grades, when they're supposed to be able to read longer chapter books, okay, but still can't. Okay, chapter books, poetry novels are great. Okay, so New Kid, The Hate You Gave, Dear Martin, can be great to teach Black Lives Matter. Okay, Crossover, poetry novel, okay, about a high school student. Lions of Little, yeah. So there's a lot of connections, places, events. Kids can research because they happen in our state. Okay. Gone Crazy in Alabama. Okay, it's a historical fiction. I just like the writing. Okay, really great to read. Yeah, about Asian and Pacific Islanders. I think due to the current situation they're facing, okay, because of the pandemic, okay, they have to deal with this wave of discrimination, hate. Okay, so in the last few years, I have encouraged my students in both graduate and undergraduate classes to find and read some books about Asian and Pacific Islanders. Okay, so these are some of the books I really like. Okay, so Eyes That Kiss in the Corners. Okay, it's a brand new book published 2021. Beautiful book. Okay, the Runaway Walk. It's about the Chinese New Year, about sharing, giving. Okay, helping others. Name Jar, it's about a Korean girl who has a very difficult name, okay, different name. Okay. Tsunami is about the Japanese culture, okay, about sharing, about helping, about making self-sacrifice for others. Okay. Tsunami, very beautiful illustrations, great artwork. Okay. One Grain of Rice is about Indian culture, again, about helping others. It's a folktale, wonderful book. Okay. In our state, especially in Northwest Arkansas, we have a sizable amount population, okay, we have students from that population. So if you want to include some books that are about the Hmong experience, Hmong culture, so these are some books you may consider by reading. Okay, The Most Beautiful Thing. Okay, Most Beautiful Thing. So it's also a brand new book. Okay, it's a great book. And so the first three books about the Hmong experience. Okay, Watercress. Okay, it's a Caldecott winner. Okay, about the Chinese culture. Watercress. Here are some chapter books. Okay, so if you teach third grade, fourth grade students, they can read chapter books. You may consider reading these books. Okay, When You Trap a Tiger, 2021 Newbery medalist about Korean culture. Okay, it's not like it's a secret. I would recommend for high school level. It's not like it's a secret. I read this book. It's a great book. Very easy to read. Very interesting to read. Okay, very engaging. Okay, Starfish again for older students, high school students. Front Desk. Okay, this has gained some popularity in schools in the past several years. Front Desk. It's about immigrant experience. Okay, I don't think our kids, really understand the experiences of immigrants. We always say this is an immigrant country, right? I don't think our kids really understand the experiences. Okay, so it's a great book, about a fourth grade Chinese immigrant girl who helps her parents to run a motel. Okay, motel. A lot of great experiences. Okay. Inside Out and Back Again. This is a poetry novel, very easy to read. Okay, poetry. Okay. About the Vietnamese refugee. Okay, The War Outside. Okay, I read this book. It's about the experiences two girls. One is of Japanese descent, the other is of German descent. Okay, they were sent to this internment camp in Texas. Okay, so both the Japanese and the German. Okay, some Germans. Okay, were sent to internment camps during World War II. Okay. American Born Chinese. This is a graphic novel. Okay. It's for middle grades, for third, fourth, fifth grade students. Okay. Books on Latinx culture. Okay. Again, we see a huge increase, right? We'll see more, right? 30%, okay, about 30% by 2025. Okay, so yeah, if you look at that graph, the graphs again, okay, we will have about 30%, Hispanic students in our classroom, in our schools by 2025, right? Okay, 3 years from now. Okay, so that's a huge number. Okay, and I know teachers don't have enough books about this culture, okay, in their libraries, in their classrooms. Okay, so in social studies, okay, if you could include some books about their cultures, these are some books you can consider. Okay, and these are more like fiction, bilingual books. Okay, Mango, Abuela, and Me. Okay, Separate is Never Equal. The Hispanics were also segregated in the 1940s and 1950s. Okay, it's about their segregation experience. Book Fiesta, bilingual. Okay, Martina the Beautiful Cockroach. It's a beautiful, very beautiful Cuban folktale. Okay. Some more books. Okay. Where Are You From? This is a brand new book. Okay, Where Are You From? It's about Hispanic experience. Just Ask. Okay, it's about disabilities. Two books that are about artists, right? Viva Frida, and Diego Rivera, okay, about two artists. Okay. These are some chapter books, okay, about the Hispanic experience. Okay, the first one is a 2019 Libero Window. Okay, Libero Window. Poet X is a poetry novel, very easy to read, about high school student experience. Return to Sender, about migrant workers, okay, migrant farm workers. Okay. Crossing, it's about border crossing. Okay. Okay, so the last two slides are the selected references. So if you want to dig more, you can refer to these articles and books.